Okay, try this again. Maybe this will work now. N4H&H here. And wanted to do a live stream today because, well, today is special. I was tuning around on the 10-meter band FM area, and I'm hearing some activity. Let's see if we have any viewers yet. I'll give it a few minutes. See if some folks join. Looks like you'll be able to live chat. Yeah, I think so. A little lighting going. All right, so let's see. Do we have 18 viewers? Okay, somebody give me a chat and let me know that you hear me okay. I'm going to have to move this microphone down a little bit because I'm going to get over where the radio is. But let me know if you're hearing me okay. Oh, hey, David. And appreciate Andy. Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Andy. Very good, very good. Well, so what I'm doing here is I like to do this every now and then when propagation's good and something's going on. I did one when we had an aurora last year. These live chats, and well, I did one a while back with the thanks David for confirming that. I did a live chat here a while back with the TS890S. Well, today I'm only using the FTdx10. Let me show you. I'm going to grab the radio cam here and move it around a little bit. There's the TS890S. I've got a bunch of footage shot with that one, and I'm still just, it's in the edit queue. I'm bogged down with editing right now, and just so much else going on. But I fired up the FTdx10. I've got a few more videos planned for it. You guys, I don't know if you've watched all 103, but there are 103 currently in the FTdx10 tutorial list. And I've got a few more planned for that one too. I think I've kind of exhausted it, but you know, I always, every now and then I think of something else I can do. But what I want you to know is we've got, as a matter of fact, let me aim the camera so you can see. You see the ham clock over there? See all that orange? That's the 10-meter propagation. And even though it doesn't show any up there in Canada, it is open right now. And I'm going to show you here in just a moment. Now, this could be sporadic E. Things will probably get a little better in the fall, but anyway, oh, hey, Glenn. And so let me change something on the radio and let you hear. Oh, that's the owner of the repeater. So the 29.640 repeater is in London, just south of Shedden. It's Shedden, Ontario. It's just south of London, Ontario. And that was the repeater owner, one of them. They're just now talking his VE3 Mike X-ray, and his name is Mike. And hey, Randall. It is Texas. I used to live there, Austin. Well, so the repeater is coming in pretty good today. You know, there's that natural fading. You can see the S meter up there doing a little fading, but it's been coming in strong. It has been reaching about 10 over 9 at times. So not bad. And I've already had a QSO on there. I've talked to Mike, but here's an irony. There was a guy in there earlier, KF8AV. Oh yeah, I know you. Hey, there was a guy in there from Watkinsville, Georgia earlier, which is near Athens, Georgia. If you've ever heard of the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs. And so, you know, here I am slightly north of Atlanta. So probably a 50-minute drive, maybe not quite that, 45, for me to get to the guy in Watkinsville. And we had a QSO through that repeater right there that is in Canada. So I thought that was pretty cool. I've done that a long time ago. I worked a guy who was mobile in Alabama, and he was the guy in Alabama was working me through I think it was W10J. I believe it was W10J. It was a 10-meter repeater out of Boston. And I thought that was ironic. So here I did it again, worked a guy not too far from me. And yet, we're using a repeater in Canada. There it just hit S9. You guys have cell phones. We've done that before. I mean, I've been out in the yard and called my wife. So, okay. We go through a cell tower repeater and then talk to my wife just a few feet away. But anyway, but this is radio, and this is cool to be able to do this. So what I'm going to do is I want to show you a few little tricks I've done with the radio, some setup stuff, and tune around a little bit here on the 10-meter. And by the way, the sideband portion is open as well. I like to check all of these frequencies. And then notice, by the way, that's a repeater. 620 is a repeater in New York. That one's going to need a tone 146.2, I believe. And then now this 640 does not require a tone. It is called it's what we call CSQ, carrier squelch. Hey Joe, Rockford, Tennessee. Oh yeah, you're not too far away. So that repeater you will not have to program a tone in. In fact, what's ironic is not far from me, like literally maybe 8 air miles, is a local repeater, and not super strong, but on the same frequency. If you've watched some of my videos where I set up 10 meters in my memories, the popular frequencies are, let me go down, and you see me rotating the outer dial. You see that little blinking light there? That lets you know that you're in memory mode, and I operate from memory mode and then use memory tune if I want to move off from a frequency. All right, so there, 29.600 is simplex. That's the calling frequency, and then you can move somebody off. You want to go down from there to use to have a QSO. And oh, David, let's see. Yeah, gray line's great. Yeah, I mean, I've been working, by the way, if you saw my post, I've been working Australia lately, but you got to stay up kind of late to do it. I got them on 10 meters, 20 meters, of course. Look, if you're new to this, let me just tell you, if you can only put up 2 antennas and you want to be able to know that you can pretty much have coverage all the time, 40 meters and 20 meters. 10 meters is fun, but it's cyclical. We Cycle 25 peaked out last year, and so it's waning. It's kind of on its way down from the bell curve there. So 10 meters, 12 meters, 15 meters, they will become unusable over time. But 20 meters and 40 meters. So for example, Cycle 24 was not great, but 20 meters and 40 meters were pretty reliable for us. And late at night, and when I say late at night, midnight Eastern time till about 2 or 3 a.m., you can get down under stations, New Zealand, Australia, on 20-meter band when conditions are right. So I've been working some of them lately. And in fact, I've been to Tasmania, the bottom of Tasmania, where the capital is, called Hobart. And I've been there on business, and I actually worked a station the other night in Hobart, so I thought that was kind of ironic. In fact, he lived very near the hotel where I stayed, and a beautiful place, Tasmania, which is separate. It's an island. It's separate, but it is part of Australia. Okay, so 29.6 is simplex. You can go there, call somebody, and now let me show you a little trick. Let me make sure you can see. Yeah, you can see the knob here. Okay. So I'm going to rotate the VFO, but I'm in memory mode. Now watch at the top, up there where you see 20, it'd be easier for you to watch the big screen up there, the monitor. To the left of the 29.6, you see that it says Memory 84 FM. Now watch what happens there when I rotate the VFO. It just changed to MT. That's memory tune. To me, this is the best way to operate this radio, but especially the FT891. I shot a video about that. because I use it mobile and I don't want to have to be over there messing around. And, you know, changing bands on the FT891, you got to hold down a long press a button, rotate the VFO to get the band you want. Same thing with mode. Work from memory tune. So you go through and you program, and I've got a video about this in the FTdx10 series, and I've got one I just recently put out with the FTX1, where I show you how my method to my madness, how I program in the memories. And then because the beauty of that is you've got mode, filter settings, what roofing filter you want to use, what width you want to use, you know, whether you want contour turned on or off, APF on or off, those kind of things. And you can also, you save that. So all I did just now, I've got all my settings. And by the way, there's a separate FM mic gain in the FTdx10. I've got that set. AM too, there's a separate, for AM you got to lower the mic gain. If you haven't run into that, somebody would let you know, I guarantee you. Oh man, you're overdriving. So by the way, those are some of the subtle things missing in the FT710. You know, they look a lot alike, but what I call creature comforts, I've started using that term with this Kenwood TS890S. I call them creature comforts. All these little subtle things that are so wonderful. And the 890S is full of some wonderful creature comforts. But little subtle things like that. So, for example, when I switch to FM, you know this, if you go into radio setting, I'm going to press the function knob and move over to radio setting. See, you can go through there and set up for every mode. So let me show you one. I'll do AM, all right? And you'll notice my AM mic gain is set at 12. Yeah, I only need 12 for AM. If you don't get a handle on that, you'll overdrive. So if you have an FT710, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way. When you switch to AM, just remember to lower your mic gain, because on that radio you do it through the menu. So let me get out of here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here you see that my mic gain is on 30. If I press it, I can't change it, and that's because that's the FM mic gain. It's also programmed in, and I don't need to move it because I found out 30 works great with this particular mic. Okay, we'll talk about the mic in a second. But now, Doug, what if I want to get back into memory mode? Watch where my finger goes. The outer dial, because of the blinking light, you long press the step MCH button here, and it starts blinking. That means you're in memory mode. And as soon as you rotate it, you're back in memory select. So now I'm on a sideband frequency. So what's this? The mic gain is at 17. So the deal is, you have to remember with some of the radios that you're just going to have to lower the mic gain when you go to AM, raise the mic gain for sideband and FM. Like I said, I've got it set for 30 on FM. All right, so let me get back out of this. And yeah, even the sideband portion of 10 meters has been open today. You can see they're on the scope. I see, I just saw that frequency pop up, that spike pop up there, so it's a little below where I'm at, and I am in center mode. I know you can't see it for that TS890S cover there, but I am in center mode, and I'm going to well, they're not transmitting right now. I'm gonna tune down though, but I mean there's signal up the band too. There's somebody, but that's a strong signal up the band. So I'm just going to rotate the outer dial and put it right back in memory select and get closer to where that stronger station was. I'm at 28,450. So I've got, 28,350, 400, 425, 450, 475, 500, some of the popular areas. So I can go there. And again, my roofing filter will be selected. My gain stages, if you look there, attenuation is off. IPO is set to amp 1. 3 kilohertz roofing filter, AGC auto. And even my filter width, let me see what it is. I have it defaulting at 2800. I may narrow that. I wouldn't go wider, except for FT8. Now, you guys who've been following me for a while, hey Steve, first time watching. Well, welcome. Use my settings. Yeah, okay, great. I'm glad to hear that. So you guys who've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I rarely use amp 1 or 2 because radios are too sensitive these days. I've been helping some of the S9 VIP Patreons who subscribe annually can contact me for technical support. We'll even get on Zoom, have Zoom sessions, and I've been helping some lately with this, where they're having some interference. Well, the problem is you get down on 40 meters, even 20 meters, but especially 40 meters and lower in frequency, down to 60, 80, 160. These radios are way too sensitive for you to have amp 1 engaged. I always go to IPO, and here's one that many of you who are members of the Patreon have seen in my Patreon, and who have watched maybe all 103 so far videos on the FTdx10, and even some of the videos on the other rigs. You know that if I had to buy another radio today, it would be FTdx10. Oh yeah, I know, David. I mean, it's still it was a breath of fresh air to turn that thing on Friday and get back on it, because I've been so busy with the 890 and the FTX1. But yeah, so in fact, FTX1, there it is in its portable configuration with the antenna matching unit mounted on the back. All right, so back to IPO. The radios are very sensitive, and on those, I generally will use IPO, intercept point optimization, all the way up to 20 meters, and if the signals are strong enough on 17 meters, I'll even use it there. Why? I'm working that S meter to the left. Look up my video on YouTube called S meter to the left. That improves the signal to noise ratio. Also improves the what's something called the cross modulation characteristic of the radio. Just better selectivity, put it that way in simple terms. And so use IPO as much as you can. Now, when you get down on those lower frequencies, especially 40 and below, you're going to also need some attenuation, because you're trying to get that noise floor. See that noise floor right now is just hovering around 0. So amp 1 is okay there. Now, the reason for that is because on the higher frequencies, we do need a more sensitive receiver. But on the lower frequencies, really and truly, you can damage your receiver if you get too high of an input to the front end of the receiver. So you're better off running the intercept point optimization and even include some attenuation. So here's my decoder ring on attenuation. And again, back to those of you who have been watching me for a while have seen this. I recall in one video I put a chart up. 40 meters, I go to IPO, again, intercept point optimization, meaning no amp 1, no amp 2. I then kick in, hey Houston, I also kick in 6 dB of attenuation. That usually does the trick. Once in a while, I may even need 12 if it's a noisy day. Really, usually noisy night. Okay, that's when we get a lot of our noise. And we know the reason for that at night, in case you didn't know. The ionosphere during the day, the D layer is involved. It's 30 to 60 miles above us. And that's, you saw my recent post on Patreon about the D region absorption prediction map there. But in the evening, the D layer dissolves, and even the E layers, there were a couple, dissolve, and you're going to go up to the F layer. Well, what's happening there is we're beginning to hear signals from thousands of miles away. Well, I covered this years ago, early days of the channel, what causes that, what we call natural noise, QR Nancy. Well, among other things, it's a collection of all the lightning strikes around the globe, and they get together and produce a noise floor for us. Yeah, bad enough we got QR Mary from man-made, but we have that. Well, at night, because the D layers dissolve and the E layers dissolve, you're getting more noise because you're hearing more of the collective noise, cosmic noise, you'll hear people say, from around the globe. And so at night, I may have to do 12 dB of attenuation on the 40 meter band. But my normal go-to is 40 meters, IPO, 6 dB of attenuation, 60 meters, 80 meters, IPO, 12 dB of attenuation, and then 160 meters IPO and 18 dB of attenuation. Again, trying to get that S meter close to zero, whatever it takes. So let me show you an example here. Well, Doug, up there, you're very high in frequency, so you need a little more sensitivity. True. Now look at that S meter. It's just wiggling a little bit, right? I'm going to go to amp 2. I should just use a mouse to do this, but I'll touch it. All right, now look at that noise floor. I've got a much more sensitive receiver, but I don't need that. I can't hear anything below that S3 anyway. So really, it's actually hitting S4. So back to amp 1. Now, what if somebody comes in and they're just blasting me 10 dB over 9, which is a pretty good signal on 10 meter band? I may even, in a one-off situation, go to IPO. Now let's talk about IPO a second. Intercept point optimization. Now, you may notice on ICOM rigs and Kenwood rigs, like the TS890S over here, they just have preamp 1, preamp 2, or no preamp. So you might think, well, IPO in the Yaesu speak means no preamp, because your choices are IPO, amp 1, amp 2. But the reality is only the FTdx1000 that I know of so far with Yaesu radios, modern Yaesu radios. And look, there's no secret too, that's still my favorite radio. But that radio has IPO2. IPO2 is indeed no preamplifier. But IPO, which is the equivalent of IPO1 in the Yaesu FTdx1000, if you're an FTdx1000 user, post it in the chat. But IPO1 is more equivalent to the IPO in the FTdx10, the 101, the 710. And what that is, there is a little bit of amplification there, very little. So for example, to give you some numbers, it's like 10 dB with amp 1, 20 dB with amp 2. But what they're doing, they're amplifying it to the point where it is improving the intercept point, but not to the point of degrading your signal to noise ratio, S/N ratio. Now, what do we mean by intercept point? Well, that's a good question, right? The signal's coming in, and in this case, you got a hybrid rig here, so it has a super heterodyne front end. That's why it has an actual roofing filter there. You see it at 3 kilohertz. When a signal comes in off the antenna, makes it through the bandpass filter, which in this case, okay, a bandpass filter that says only allow in, 28 megahertz, right? Makes it through the bandpass filter. The first stage in the receiver, first mixer it's called, has an oscillator that beats against that incoming signal, and in this radio's case produces a 9 megahertz first intermediate frequency, or first IF. After that, the signal goes through that 3 kilohertz roofing filter, and that's a physical crystal filter, so it has a little bit of loss through it, not much. It's usually about the equivalent of a maybe an S unit, probably slightly less. So what they do is intercept point optimization is a little bit of a boost to overcome that, what we call insertion loss in that first IF, that first intermediate frequency filter. So that's called the intercept point. And what it means is I've intercepted that signal coming in off the antenna, and I'm going to now mix against it, produce a 9 megahertz IF. That 9 megahertz IF is, well, the crystal filter, that 3 kilohertz filter there, it is expecting 9 megahertz. So we beat, the oscillator beats against the incoming signal at the intercept point, produces 9 megahertz, sends it over to the roofing filter. Yaesu did a nice job with this visual up here, because you see it starts at ATT, the attenuation. Well, the attenuation happens before the first IF. And then there's the first IF, which is where you see IPO. And they, it's the intercept point. And so they rightfully call it intercept point optimization, because you're saying, how do I want to optimize my intercept point? I want to optimize it with IPO, which is least amplification, best signal to noise ratio. But you get up here on these higher bands and you may need more than IPO. You may need to go to amp 1. I can tell you right now, if the signals are strong, it stays on IPO a good ways up my memory list. But I can still change it. And what's this? I've made a change there. So watch where it says IPO. Now I'm going to go back and rotate the outer dial. And then I'll just come back. And now you'll notice IPO. So what it's doing there is certain changes that you make, it will remember them. Now, if it's almost like, have any of you used, I know you've seen my videos about band stack registers. This radio has 3. You can use, in VFO mode, you can use band stack registers. In memory mode, you don't use band stack registers because you can literally change frequencies by rotating that outer dial. Or, by the way, you can press the M button, and you'll notice there's my memory list, and I can use the function knob. So I'll pick one of these repeaters. There's that New York repeater. So you can do it that way too, but I like to long press the step MCH so you see it blinking, and then I just use the outer dial, and I can quickly, I touched the VFO, and I went off frequency. Now, outer dial, and I'm right back in memory mode automatically. You hear the clicking, that's the amplifier over there changing bands. So they're all the way down to my first, there we go. I start at memory 0, 1 with CWU 1832. That's just a common frequency for SOTA stations there. And then here I go, up, and you've seen my videos where I show you my method to my madness programming these frequencies in. I usually start at the bottom of the band with some CW setting, and then I go through and set all the filtering up. You'll see this one set. Look up there, RFIL, the roofing filters, 300 hertz. I installed the optional 300 hertz filter. And see, now when I go up to the data U mode there, it's set for 3 kilohertz roofing filter for FT8. And then, whoops, I did the VFO again, and it moved off. All I got to do is rotate. See, now I'm into the sideband area, 3 kilohertz roofing filter, and look at that, IPO 12 dB of attenuation. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you. So here's 160 meters sideband. You'll see IPO and 18 dB. Let me point something out. Always engage IPO before you go to an attenuator. Because if you're attenuating and then also amplifying, you got your the two are working against one another. Go to IPO first. Yaesu will tell you this. I think it's even written in their manual. IPO first, then consider attenuation as an additional way to keep the literally the high voltage coming in off the magnetic waves that your antenna's picking up, to keep them from possibly damaging the front end of your receiver. If you own an FTdx1000, and I don't see anybody posted that they did, but when you go down to listen to AM broadcast, the FTdx1000 will automatically force you to IPO to help protect the front end of the receiver. There's just some sensitive components in there because that's what they've done to make the radio so sensitive these days. Those of you who are an FTX1, and if you're a Patreon member at S9 level, you've been seeing my post about the issues with that radio. If you watch my post on that radio, you've seen some issues with the front end. Well, it's very sensitive. So on these lower bands, absolutely you should use IPO. Now, it doesn't have graduated attenuation steps. It's either on or off. The best I can tell, because I haven't seen schematic yet, but it looks like it's about 12 dB of attenuation, but it's either on or off. There is no 6, 12, or 18. But on 40 meters and down, just write it down. IPO and ATT should be engaged on that FTX1, or you're going to ask for some selectivity issues. All right, there we go. So I'm stepping up through my menus, and I go in order of band with just favorite frequencies. And again, you see all the filters switching over, all that's saved with the memories. And let's say I see somebody post a SOTA spot for 28.063. Well, I have a memory for 28.062. I'll just rotate the VFO now to 063. It's using all the same filter settings and everything that I already had in there. APF is enabled, I can tell you that. Well, actually looking down, no, I didn't enable it there. I'll do it if I need it. So it's using everything that's preset in that memory. And then when I'm done and I want to go back to, say, 28062, I just rotate this outer dial. And there it is, back to 28062. It's just, Memory Tune is a great way to operate. I probably should have entitled this Memory Tune, I don't know. But I wanted you to see the 10 meter band open and the repeaters. So let's go back up there. I hope the band's still open. I see a bunch of orange on the ham clock, so maybe it is. Let's see. I'm a low power. I think my power is set to. Oh, that's mic gain. Let me go back to power. I like to leave my. Yeah, I'm set at 15 watts. I like to leave my function knob. You know, the function knob, if you just reach up and rotate it, it's going to act on the very last thing you had worked on. And right now it's back up to RF power if you look up here. Okay, so, oh, yeah. There's the repeater. It's still going. All right. I was going to trip it, but I don't have to. Now, I said earlier something about that microphone. This microphone here looks very big. But actually, it's a little bitty guy. And I did shoot a video about it quite a while ago, probably 2 years ago. A gentleman, you know how my channel operates. I'm not rich. I can't go out and buy everything that comes out. So if somebody wants me to shoot a video about something, they send me one. So a gentleman sent me that microphone. That's a W2 Echo New York, put it that way, ENY, W2 ENY microphone. And you can order it with the modular connector on the end, so it plugs directly into, in this case, the FTdx10. So I got it out Friday because right now, let me show you something. The PR781 is connected to the Kenwood, and it's even has to have its own, yeah, even though that connector looks like the Yaesu round, it's wired differently. So I had to get the special Kenwood cable for that microphone, which, let me see if I can nudge it around there and you can see. Yeah, you see that red? That's Kenwood. Yellow is Yaesu. So I can tell my cables apart. So right now the 781 is assigned to the Kenwood, and so when I wanted to play with the FTdx10, I just grabbed that microphone and I tweaked the audio a little bit. It's very, very different than Yaesu, very, very different than Heil. So I used RT Systems to save those settings. So I have two different profiles. I have one for the Heil, one for the RT Systems. Actually, I have a third for Yaesu. But the main thing about this mic is there are certain frequencies you boost, certain ones you cut, and different than Yaesu, different than Heil, but also it's extremely sensitive. So, for example, you saw a while ago for sideband, I had the mic gain set at 17. On the Heil, I think I run 40. So the Yaesu, I might run 50. So it's an extremely sensitive microphone, so you have to run the gains a lot lower. But that's the mic. And it's interesting too that this mic, look at this, the push to talk. See that little switch there, 1 and 0? It's actually not spring return. So let me show you what I mean. I'll go to 28,500 and just transmit. I should probably go to the dummy load. But anyway, I'll just ID. But watch this. Watch when I press this. Let me get it where you can see. N4, HNH, testing. It stays transmitting. It's not a spring return. I mean, that's okay. Some people like to key down and broadcast for a while, and some of the desk mics have the lock button on it. But this thing is so smooth, so small. I think it's just was kind of necessary to do it that way, so you can have that option to lock, and I don't mind it. One cool thing about it, it's so sensitive, I don't need to get right up to it. In fact, it just sits on the desk, and I transmit, and everybody hears me just fine. Okay, so I'm encouraging you to enjoy some of this 10 meter propagation today. I'll put it on that repeater that's been active. See if anybody comes in while we're chatting here. And some of you may, if you're a Patreon member, you probably saw earlier I put out a notice about the D region absorption. It had gotten up to 17 megahertz. So that means everything below 17 megahertz was attenuated at least by 1 dB. 40 meters was shut down completely. That line is now, let me show you, it's on the DRAP map. See the red line down there at the bottom? Hopefully you can see that. Right now it's sitting at about 12 megahertz. So 40 meters is still attenuated, 30 meters probably to some extent. And that's the way it goes with propagation. All right, so before I end the video, I'll take some questions in the chat if you have any questions. It's good to have you, George, here in Houston. George and I have had a Zoom session. And David, these guys are Patreon members who literally without them, I wouldn't be here. Doing this independently like I do with no corporate sponsorship, not an easy thing to do. And I'm going to always be straight with you. I'm always going to give you the truth. I do not try to cover for any manufacturer. I try to tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. So anybody got a question? Okay, not seeing any. Well, that's about what I wanted to show you. Just wanted you to see the method to my madness there, the memory tune, the fact that 10 meters is doing pretty well today. And again, it should get better again, even though we're on the downside of the cycle 25, it should get a little better around fall, and as we get a little cooler temperatures. And if you don't have a ham clock, it's a great source. Let me move over to where you can see the top right, right here, that area is called the space weather pane. That's configurable. And, there's mama deer and the babies out there. I feed these deer. You probably, if you've been to my QRZ channel, page, you've probably seen a photo. But that area there, a while ago, the X-ray value here, C4.1, it was an M1.1. So we had a M-class flare. You don't want to see X. That's the worst. But a 1.1 is also a low-class, low M-class flare. But that was happening about the same time that the D region absorption was happening from 17 megahertz and below. So it gives you, there's the D region map. So it gives you real good insight into what you might expect if you get on the air. But let me caution you. Don't, I'll answer that in a minute, George. Don't just assume because you look at it and it says propagation's not good that you won't get anybody. I worked a guy on 12 meters one night, a D expedition, on a little island just north of Australia. And the VOACAP index, let me show you right here, the VOACAP was saying it was in the red, which means you got maybe a 33% chance at best of working that station. Black means you got no chance, right? But I got them with it in the black. Now, it had just gone from red to black. Green, by the yellow is, maybe, you got between 33 and 66% chance of working them. Sort of like a weatherman, right? And then green means, you're probably going to get them. You got between a 66% and a 100% chance. So that's why I like to rely on that. But don't completely rely on it 100%. Let me show you something. Can you see out the window there? There she is with the two little ones. Now, I've already fed her breakfast this morning, and she's literally staring at me right now saying, hey, I want some more corn. I'll give her some more this afternoon, don't worry, and she can then feed the two babies. You see them? My granddaughter named her Raisin, and we only saw one at the time, so we named it Raisinette, but it turns out that there are two Raisinettes, and so, she's coming up to get fed so she can then feed them. I'll see you this afternoon a little bit later, Raisin. All right, so George has a question. What antenna am I using? And that's a good question. Let me look. Right now, I am listening to them with the ZS6 BKW, Zulu Sierra 6 Bravo Kilo Whiskey. that is the antenna that I get a lot of mileage out of. I don't have a beam, no tower. Been doing this 43 years and never felt like I had to have one because, as a matter of fact, I made my longest distance contact when I'd only been a general for 2 weeks. Still haven't been able to break that record. It was a guy in Australia. I didn't even have a QSL card at the time. 41 years later, I looked him up. He's still around, has a new call sign, and I sent him a QSL card. And because he had sent me one, by the way. So that was a crazy thing. But yeah, right now I'm using the ZS6BKW, but I will usually switch back and forth between it and my 160 meter doublet, which, guys, you can build either of these antennas really, really cheaply. Now, I was going to build a ZS6BKW. I love building wire antennas. But when I looked at buying all the materials, there's a guy out there, NI4L, and I get no sponsorship from him. I don't do sponsors, but I'm just telling you the scoop. He builds one cheap enough that it wasn't worth me trying to buy all the parts and get out there and measure it out. So it's a very good performing antenna. It doesn't really need an antenna matching unit, aka antenna tuner. You know how I feel about that terminology. You're not an antenna tuner should be able to go out there and lengthen the antenna or shorten the antenna. They don't do that. They just act as a transformer and match it. But this antenna on this area of the band actually does not need any help. It's resonant there, or nearly resonant. Less than a 1.5 to 1, which is plenty good. But it does need help for the lower end of 10 meters. It does need help there for the 28 dot, the CW sideband portion up to 28.5 and all of that. But then on 12 has about a 2 SWR, but that's plenty good. You can touch it up with the ATU antenna tuner they call inside the radio. And then 17, fine, no problem, no need for an antenna matching unit. 20, same thing. 40, same thing. But with a antenna matching unit, especially a wide range, you can cover essentially 6 through 80. Let me show you something. Look, there's a little one gotten here close. Now the little ones won't come up too close if I'm out there, but the mom will stand there and look at me like, hey, there's no food in the bowl. All right, just a little extra there on the video. Now, the 160 meter doublet's also easy to build. I use a ladder lock, which is also what NI4L uses with his ZS6BKW. And then I use 450 ohm ladder line, but it's really, purist would call that window line. And now, by the way, the NI4L version of the ZS6BKW is not, if you go out and look for plans to build a ZS6 Bravo Kilo Whiskey, they're going to call for 450 ohm window line. Well, the truth is that is not what NI4L uses. He has one that he uses from the Wireman, the guy you see at Hamfest, that's 420 ohm. And then he tweaked the measurements of the length of that ladder line as well as the length of the elements to where he could get a better, a more usable portion of each of those bands I mentioned where it's pretty much a 2 to 1 or less. So his is different. Again, just he tweaks it. And the last time I heard, he was making them one at a time. But the doublet, now, it's going to have a lot of gain on 10 meters. I'll just tell you that. But so will the ZS6BKW. And why is that? A lot of wire in the air. And so it's basically 250 feet of wire fed in the middle. I have a ladder lock there to connect the wires to and lay the ladder line into it. Look up ladder lock. It's a cool device. It helps make that center point very robust. It can withstand just about anything except, and those of you who are Patreon members probably saw my post a couple of months ago, except a direct lightning strike. My brother's doublet got hit directly, and it blew it smoked the wires, burned the insulation off. It blew the ladder lock to bits. He's still finding pieces of it, even in the front yard, even though the antenna was in the backyard. But it's very robust. It's the best way to deal with that window line. And then I've got insulators on the end, 250 feet of wire. If you do the math on a 160 meter doublet, yeah, it's going to come out to 246, 247 feet. But you got to know this. A doublet has complex impedances. It's going to be changing all the time anyway. You're not going for the typical, like when you do a dipole and you cut it exactly by the numbers, and then you may tweak it for whatever portion of the band you want to have a 1.05 to 1 or whatever. But you're going to need an antenna matching unit with a doublet. You can work it out when you change the length of the ladder line. You can work it out to where you can have a low SWR somewhere. Mine, and it just worked out because of the length of the line, mine had a low SWR at about 13.5 megahertz, so it was in between bands. And so what I did, I said 13.5, sorry. It was 15, about 15.5, 16, somewhere along in there. So if I wanted to move it down to be more, to give me a great SWR on the 20 meter band, I would then need to lengthen it, add more ladder line. Well, I didn't need to add more. I had enough. So what I did was trimmed it, and I've got it centered up at about a 18.130. So I do not need an antenna matching unit for the 17 meter band with my doublet antenna. And the doublet antennas, like I said, pretty cheap to make. The most expensive part is the balun. I use a 4-to-1 3,000 watt balun. Yes, always buy a 3,000 watt balun if you're going to run an amplifier, just to be on the safe side. If you haven't heard of about baluns, the core becoming saturated, it'll drive your SWR up. So when a company tells you their balun's rated for 1,500, probably 750, 800, maybe a kilowatt. So I buy 3,000 watt. This one's from Balun Designs, 4-to-1, and I think my ladder line's around 60 feet, 55 maybe. There are certain lengths of ladder line, and Balun Designs website gives you a breakdown of that, where you want to land on length. But mine's in that range where it's good. So I usually switch, George, long answer, I usually switch between the ZS6 BKW and the doublet to see which one's got the best signal. And by the way, that's not an issue of gain. Both antennas have good gain, especially up on these high frequencies. The issue is the higher in frequency you go, the more gain lobes you get, and therefore the more nulls you get. So it may be that one antenna has a gain lobe in the direction I'm trying to work somebody, and the other one does not. And that's ideal, because then I know that, well, okay, another person, I may be able to work them better on the ZS6 BKW. I do have an off-center fed dipole. Those of you who've been watching the channel for a while know I have a Fritzl FD4, and they are extinct now. And it's a good antenna. It works a lot of bands. Very good listening antenna, very good receive antenna, but doesn't usually outperform the ZS6 BKW or the 160 meter doublet. And I also have a Cushraft R5 vertical that is now approaching 30 years old, never has had a problem, but it almost never beats the wire antennas, vertically polarized, pulls in a little more of that natural noise. Okay, any other questions before I go? Yeah, and by the way, I see people go out there and spend $300 or $400 on wire antennas. Not necessary. That ZS6 BKW is well under $200. Great performer. In fact, I think it's only just maybe slightly more than $150 or so, and then you got shipping. All right, well, we'll close it down. Appreciate you guys riding along. Looks like we're down to 19 viewers, so I guess some of the people got bored with the subject matter. But again, I encourage you to get out there and play around on the 10 meter band, the sideband portion, as well as the FM repeaters. This video will be available later, so if you can do a rerun and find out, go back through in case you missed it, all of those frequencies I've got programmed in for those repeaters. I'll leave you with a bonus. Let me go into the menu, and you'll notice 29640. I tapped name. You see name over here. right here. I tapped name and I keyed in that or typed in. This brings up a screen, a keyboard screen. And I keyed in VE3MMX. That's the repeater's call sign, and it's in Ontario. And then the one below it, you'll see there 29.660. That's Dallas-Fort Worth, W5DFW. Also a very strong repeater. I'm not hearing it today, though. But that's FTWTH for Fort Worth, Dallas-Fort Worth. And then the one below it, I haven't heard one there in a while, but I'm set up in case there was one. And I could just hit name. And there it brings up the keyboard, and you just go through there and tap the letters and numbers, whatever you need. And then up here you'll see that there's 29620, and that one is the KQ2H, New York. And then one more up doesn't say anything because that is the 29.600 simplex thing. And now don't forget, if you program some of these in, and I did cover this in some of the videos, that you want to, you're welcome there, George. Don't forget, you will, a lot of these repeaters will need a tone, a CT CSS tone, in order for you to trip the repeater, in order for it to be willing to receive you and retransmit you. But the VE3MMX, the 29640, I went too far. Let me go back. There we go. That one currently does not require a tone. You just dial that frequency in. You'll need to go into the menu and set up the minus offset. Remember, repeaters need an offset, so you'll go into your menu and set up the minus offset. I've got a video in this tutorial for this radio that shows how to do that. And then you're good to go on that one. It does not require a tone. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for joining me, and appreciate you new guys that came along as well. Again, thank you to those of you who are Patreon team member long haulers, as I call you, because you commit a year at a time at the S9 level, and without you, this will shut down. All right, take care, everyone, and 73 from N4HNH.